Thank you for joining us this evening for our first community engagement session this season, featuring Jennifer Woods on the topic of transporting your horse. I'm Kendall Lubeck, Program Manager for the Alberta Equestrian Federation, and also joining from our team is Karina Fernandez, Sport and Recreation Manager, and Haley Perrin, Office Coordinator. We will be facilitating this evening's event. Also joining us is Sonia Dantu, our Executive Director. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Before we begin, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Everyone at this time should be muted. Please check the bottom of your Zoom screen that you haven't accidentally unmuted yourself. To check, hover your mouse along the bottom of your screen and your menu will appear where you will see the mute button, along with the chat and other function buttons. For the question and answer portion of the session, we will ask that you please use the chat function again, found along the bottom of your screen. Click on the chat button and your window will appear where you can type in your questions. We also ask that you please leave your video feature turned off, as we will have Jennifer screen sharing her presentation as she speaks. If for any reason your chat feature is not properly working, you may raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. And to do this, please click the reactions button along the bottom and you'll see a raise hand feature. We will do our very best to answer all of the questions asked tonight. However, if we are unable to get your question answered, please reach out to Jennifer at livestockhandling@mac.com. And that email will be put in the chat feature, so in the chat section, so you can see it. On March 23rd, we will be hosting another community engagement session on horse vaccinations. Watch your email and social media for more information to come. And to see future events such as this, please visit the calendar of events on our AEF website at albertaequestrian.com/calendar. So our clinician this evening is Jennifer Woods, an animal care and welfare specialist based out of Blackie, Alberta. Jennifer obtained her undergraduate degree in animal science at Colorado State University and her master's degree in veterinary preventative medicine, animal welfare from Iowa State University. She has over 25 years experience with production livestock and has been collaborating with the livestock industry in all aspects of animal welfare and care since 1998. She has been a professional certified auditor for the Animal Auditor Certification Organization since 2007 and is the lead trainer and developer for the Canadian Livestock Transport Certification Program. Jennifer's work has taken her all over the world. She has been, and her work has been used globally to audit, train, and improve farm animal welfare. I will now hand off the hosting duties to Jennifer Woods so she can share her screen. And thank you once again for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Kendra, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Always a good feeling.
Yes.
You just never know. So like Kendra said, my name is Jennifer Woods, and I'm a livestock handling specialist. And I was listening to the bio there, and there wasn't any mention of horses in the bio. And they're probably wondering, well, why is she talking about horses? So actually, I've done quite a bit of work in the equine industry through welfare, transportation, emergency preparedness. So it's a big chunk. I've done stuff with AEF, Horse Welfare Alliance. So BC Horse Council, I do quite a bit of work with also. But my main focus is when it comes to welfare is on transportation. So today's presentation, or this evening's presentation, is it's a consolidation of a full day horse hauling program that I do. And it was really challenging for me because my full day course is about 8 hours to bring this down into a 1 hour presentation because there's so much information about and things you need to know about transporting animals, transporting horses in particular. So what I did is I narrowed it down to what I felt and my experience has shown me is the 3 biggest welfare issues with the transport of horses. Trailer design and condition, horses not trained to load, and driving skills or lack of driving skills. So those are the three topics I'm going to cover today. So it's going to be somewhat of a fast-paced presentation because I have quite a bit I want to get through. So like I said, it was really hard for me to really start narrowing it down, but we'll start with your transport vehicle. So it always amazes me, and you'll see a few examples through here, the way people do manage to transport animals. They can be very, very innovative in what they do, but the backseat of your car isn't usually the best place to put your pony. So there's many considerations out there when you're shopping for a trailer, and things you need to look for to make sure it's safe and it takes good care of your horse during transport. One of the most important components of it is actually flooring. So flooring is where I see some of the biggest issues also. So the two best options for flooring is wood, and it needs to be non-slip, or stamped aluminum, as we see in the picture on the right-hand side. Both of them have mats over them to help make them non-slip. When you do stamped aluminum, which we see in a lot of our stock trailers and our aluminum trailers too, you need to make sure, if you don't have a mat, that your stamping is about the depth of a nickel. So if you lay a nickel down on its side, that's about how much of that tread you need there at a minimum in order for it to be non-slip. But your flooring needs to be sound, so the horse doesn't fall through it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the non-slip aspect is just critical to it. When animals do not feel secure in their footing, they don't settle. So they become very uncomfortable themselves. All of the species do. So flooring is really important. You need to keep your mats clean also. Absorb urine, because once you get urine and poop all over them, they become very slippery. So you might have a floor, or a dirty floor like the stamped aluminum. You might have a floor that's a non-slip material, but if you don't keep that floor clean, it's not going to be non-slip. The interior of your trailer needs to be well lit. And we're going to talk about this a little more when I get into training horses to load and things you consider there. But well-lit trailers, the horses are usually more willing to go into, and it's because horses are claustrophobic by nature. A lot of the animals are. So you don't want it to look like they're going in to a dark space. Your interior should be safe. So you want to make sure there are no sharp or protruding objects in it, anything sticking out that they can get hung up on. They can scratch themselves on, because they will. No place they can get caught. So those are all really important things to look for. Now, your windows should have bars and screens on them. So I see it all the time, and I don't see as much as I used to, but I do still see it. And I just want to make those people pull over so I can tell them that how poor it is for their horse to be driving down the road with their head out the window. So this is very unsafe for your horse. They can get all kinds of projectiles. They have bugs going at their faces. If a vehicle gets too close to you, or a mirror on a vehicle over, your animals can get hit also. So you want to make sure there's bars or screens on your windows so your horse doesn't stick its head out the window while you're driving down the road. And I'm pretty sure I have a slide coming up too that's going to tell you need to keep them closed even when they're parked, because horses seem to think they can fit out of them sometimes also. That can be an issue. So there's all kinds of different options in stalling, and I could spend the entire hour talking about this. But the main things we're looking at, there's open stock trailers, which is just like a normal stock trailer, slant or angle haul trailers. There's forward facing trailers with a manger in front of them. There's rear facing trailers. There's step up trailers versus ramps on them. So you have some where they just step up in the trailer, some that they go into ramps. And there's a lot of considerations when you're trying to decide which stalling to pick. Open stock trailers, actually I prefer. It gives the animals a little more movement within the trailer and flexibility. I know if you allow horses to travel loose in a trailer, if you're able to do it, the vast majority of them will actually turn around and travel facing backwards, which I'll talk about here in the rear facing trailer. But open stock trailers, very, very versatile. The most common trailer we see out there is a slant or angle haul trailer. And the original purpose of an angle haul trailer or slant trailer was basically to be able to fit 3 horses in a 2-horse trailer. There's a lot of challenges with the angle haul, and you'll see a lot of scramble marks with them. Not all horses haul well in angle haul. Like I said, this could be a whole lecture in itself that I don't want to get too in depth with, but just considerations. Forward facing, there's forward facing also with the manger in front of them. So the horse has the manger right there. And there's pluses and minuses to that also for head movement. And rear facing, rear horses actually, research backs up that horses actually transport better in rear facing trailers than they do in slant or forward facing. And that goes back to where I talked about in open stock trailer. If you let horses travel loose, they will turn and they will face towards the back of the trailer. And it's based on how they're able to balance easier. So just several different considerations. The big thing I'm going to tell you with this is no matter what style of trailer you have, make sure your horse fits. Okay, that is the most important thing. And how can you tell if your horse fits or not? One of them is looking at scramble marks and mud, rub marks within the trailer where their front feet are and where their butt is. So I always jokingly say, because I see a lot of horses that actually really don't fit in their trailer, that just because you can close the divider on the horse does not mean the horse fits. The same as just because you can zip your jeans up does not mean your jeans fit you. So just keep that in mind. But there's things you can definitely look for to see how well your horse actually fits in the trailer. And it's not just about height. It's about the length also. And then some people just get super creative here. This is actually Canada. A converted lawnmower trailer with a dog kennel around it. Heading down the road with their horses. So this probably would not be appropriate for here. So other considerations, electrical. So electrical issues with trailers, you shouldn't have any exposed wiring inside or outside. Any wiring you have should be enclosed in a conduit, and don't have any loose wires. Loose wires cause quite a bit of grief for you. It can affect your lights on your trailers. And this is one of the maintenance issues I see quite often is wiring that's not maintained or it is exposed. Trailer size, I just talked about, but enough room for your largest horse. So always make sure your trailer has enough room for your largest horse. They need to be able to spread all 4 legs because they need to be able to balance. They need to move their head and neck freely. A good guideline is 1 inch of clearance for each hand of the horse height at the wither. So you want to make sure your animal can move about so they're able to shift, so they're able to balance going down the road. But always make sure your trailer is big enough for the largest horse in there. And the other time, when you get tall horses, you want to make sure that they're tall, they have a full range of movement for their head also in a trailer. So other things we're looking at is the hitch. So this is always funny. The boat, $25,000, trunk, $32,000, new underwear, $10. A really, really good trailer hitch is priceless. So you want to make sure you've got a really good hitch on your trailer. Our 2 standard hitches is a bumper hitch or a gooseneck. A lot of people have a preference to one or the other. I find a gooseneck way easier to back up, but both of them work. So depending on the style of trailer you have. This is just a funny picture. Once again, how creative people can get with this, but it's one way to take your gooseneck down the road. So when it comes to your towing vehicles, engine size should have enough horsepower to haul the extra weight of a loaded trailer. And the towing vehicle is one of the issues we see, is that the vehicle isn't enough for the trailer. The longer the wheelbase, the greater the towing stability when the vehicle is in motion. And the vehicle must have proper suspension to handle the weight you will be towing. So you're towing a combination of the trailer, the animals, and all the tack. So this picture is actually just outside of Leduc, on the QE2, and a gust of wind did this. Okay, so when choosing a towing vehicle or trailer, you must know the gross weight of the trailer and towing capacity of your towing vehicles. So your towing vehicle, the capacity of your trailer isn't based on whether you can pull the trailer or not, whether it actually moves a trailer. A lot of people, that's really all they think about is, oh, as long as it can pull the trailer, it's going to be good enough. You need to be able to handle the load you're hauling also, and your vehicle has to have the towing capacity to do that. And the other thing that people don't take into consideration, it's not your ability to pull the trailer necessarily as much as it's your ability to control and stop the trailer. And is your vehicle able to do this? And this is a common thing that I do see also, is people just think because their vehicle has a hitch and they can tow that they're going to be able to haul their horses with it or any trailer with it. So both the people and the horses were okay in this accident. I got to give them credit, though. I've got to point out safety. The safety chains held. They had those safety chains and they were still hooked up to that vehicle. And I was really excited to see safety chains on there. So when you have trailers, trailer maintenance is key. You can buy a brand new shiny trailer. If you don't maintain it, you're going to run into problems. So trailer maintenance not only extends the life of the vehicle or the trailer, it also keeps you and your horses safer during transport. So there should be general maintenance that is ongoing, and that would be cleaning and just doing inspections of the trailer to make sure nothing's broke or needs replaced. Then there should be annual or semi-annual inspections that you do. And you need to always be checking your wiring, braking, and electrical. A good habit to get into: every time you hook up, make sure your lights are working and your brakes are engaged. Flooring is critical to maintenance, though. You have to pull the mats. This picture here is from a horse that fell through a wood floor that gave out in a trailer, and they were drug on the road. And I've heard horror stories about this, but I've gone into trailers and done trailer inspections where I've pulled up the mats and there's been rotted boards underneath. And people haven't ever pulled the mats up. They haven't ever cleaned underneath. And when you have wood floors, it is really important that you do that and that you wash them. And if you clean them, or if you've got a lot of moisture, that you let them dry out also, because they can rot. And it depends on where you live also will have an impact on the flooring of your trailers. Another consideration is butt restraints. Butt restraints can be really stressful for the horse and dangerous for both the handler and the animal. Put up the butt restraints before tying up the horse. If the horse panics, it can back up and get one or more legs out of the back of the trailer. Same applies to unloading. Untie them first, then take down the butt restraints. So it really, some people swear by them, some people don't like them, but keep all these things in mind, and safety is always paramount with them. Okay, so when you're hitching your trailer up to go, it should be hitched up so it is as level as possible. Your chains and straps should be wrapped to prevent rattling throughout loading. Even the littlest noises that we might not even notice or hear, our animals will hear. They hear at a much higher pitch than we do. They hear louder than we do. They hear further away. Make sure the couple is securely attached to the ball with the safety pin inserted correctly. So you really, really need to pay attention when you're hooking up your trailer. I will tell you from experience, do not talk on your cell phone and try to hook up at your trailer at the same time. I ended up with our livestock trailer and with the hitch sitting in the back of my truck because I missed a step because I was busy talking when I was hanging up the phone. It came off right as soon as I went to pull away, but lesson learned there. So plug your lights in, make sure they work, make sure your brake lights, turn signal, running lights are all working. You need to be street legal, but it's also a safety thing. Safety chains, I pointed out in that previous picture, they need to be heavy enough to hold the trailer. So I actually saw safety chains on a trailer once that was like a chain you use to hook your dog up, one of those thinner chains that if it would have broken away, they wouldn't have done any good at all. Your safety chains, you should cross them and hook to the opposite side to secure part of the vehicle. That's another mistake I see people make, is where they're choosing to hook safety chains up. Don't hook safety chains up to something that's actually going to get pulled off should the trailer come unhitched. So that picture I showed you, that accident up by Leduc, those safety chains were hooked where they needed to be, and they stayed on and stayed attached to the vehicle. Safety brakes are law, except for kingpin hitch, but you have to have safety brakes. You have to have that system on your trailer, and it has to be hooked up. And don't forget your stabilizer bars. So here's a trailer hitched up in a parking lot that does not have the stabilizer bars on it. So if your trailer has stabilizer bars for the bumper hitch, they need to be on them. So it's very important to keep your trailer from swaying and to get you safely down the road. And you don't want to end up like this. So, and I've heard a couple stories that were similar to this picture there. So that is just a quick little overview of the trailer and stuff. Like I said, it's like the 30,000 foot view, but just some of the highlights to think about when choosing your trailer, maintaining your trailer, and hooking things up. Now, loading. I have seen some of the biggest wrecks out there, and people get hurt and animals get hurt, or an animal get killed actually during loading. Loading is one of the most stressful things for an animal. A lot of people don't spend the time they should on teaching their animals to load. When I went around with Mickey DeClerc for AEF and did the disaster preparedness training we did across the province a few years ago, this is one of the things I really talked to horse owners about everywhere I went, is your animal, especially in a situation such as an emergency, it better be able to load or you're not going to get out of there. Okay. And a lot of horses don't want to load in non-stressful situations, let alone a situation such as an emergency evacuation. If there's other people, they're trying to evacuate them. Are they going to be able to load? So, and I was witness to an incident to an animal that was at an event, and they went to load it up to go home, and it wouldn't load and wouldn't load. And it ended up rearing up and going over on its back and landing on the concrete with its head, and it killed the horse. You really need to teach your animals to load and load easily. And it's also a huge human safety issue. So loading horses can be very, very dangerous. So research found that the highest heart rates were recorded during the loading experiment. And this is not surprising, since loading is considered to be one of the most stressful components of transportation for most animals, not just horses, but most animals there. So I'm just going to give you a few tips on things to take into consideration when training your animals to load. The best way to lessen transportation stress is to condition the horse with positive transportation experiences. So you want a horse's experience to be as positive, especially in the beginning, as possible when it comes to transport. Through regular training and positive reinforcement, your horse can become a more relaxed and happy traveler. So the more positive experiences they have, the better off it is. And you want to make sure all aspects from loading to transport to unloading is positive for the horse. So I'll tell you just a quick little story once. Somebody had loaded up their horse, and this is about positive experiences. So they loaded up their horse, they went to town, and they decided that they needed to wash their truck and trailer when they were in town. They took the truck and trailer with the horse into the car wash. The horse went absolutely bonkers in the trailer, hurt itself in the trailer, and would not load after that. So those are things that you really need to be mindful of. And I know you might be sitting there thinking, why would somebody do that? But people do that. So each animal is individual, and some adjust better than others to shipping environment. There are some that transport really, really well, and there are some that no matter what you do, they're a nervous traveler, and people are the exact same way. So trailer loading must be part of regular schooling of all horses. It just has to be part of the program. It's one of the basics, like reading, writing, and arithmetic. So leading and loading are right up there. I've ran across people in Ontario. Actually, I had a lady come up to me, and she'd had her horse for like 9 years. And after I was doing an emergency response training, and she's like, I've never thought about this before. She says, but my horse has never been in a trailer. So she'd had her horse like 9 years, but she stabled it and never left the stables. And she said, I had never thought about the fact if I have to move the horse or if we have to evacuate that, my horse will probably not load in a trailer because it never been in it. She said to me, I never thought I needed to teach it that. So having a light, open, and airy trailer will make the environment more welcoming to a horse. It might be easier, I will tell you, it probably is easier to load a horse for the first time when you're training to load into an open stock trailer and not trying to load them into a small 2-horse trailer or a trailer that's small and they're going to feel more claustrophobic. So you might want to start with a bigger trailer that's more welcoming and not as scary. You need to teach your horse to lead, stop, turn both ways, and back up before teaching them to load in the trailer. So they need to have the basics of groundwork like that before you teach them to load in a trailer. Always keep in mind, the reason most horses do not want to load is because they are scared. So when you're trying to get them to load, and it can be frustrating, I have been there myself, you need to understand that the reason they're not wanting to go in there is because they're scared. So you need to do everything you can to make the whole experience less scary for them. And one of the most fearful things is horses tend to be prone to claustrophobia, like I said earlier, especially young green horses, and they're not used to entering confined spaces. So if they don't spend a lot of time in confined spaces, and when you look, you might stall your horse, keep them in stall, but they usually have more room in a stall and more clearance overhead. So this fear needs to be recognized, and with time, you can alleviate that fear. When a horse is afraid, they will do anything they can to get out of that situation. So this is actually a trailer accident. The horse reared up and hit a bolt, and that's what it did. So this goes back to their natural instinct to flee or to fight. So you need to keep in mind what they're going to do when they get too afraid. If you're in a hurry, you are asking for a wreck. Okay, so I use it in my livestock handling all the time, and it applies to cattle, sheep, children, just about any of that. If you have 15 minutes to move cows, it'll take you an hour. If you have an hour to move cows, it'll take you 15 minutes. The more you're in a hurry, the more you try to force them, the more fight they're going to have, and the longer it's going to take you. So when you're training your horse to load, you need to have time to do it. You need to have the patience to do it for the training session. So trainers' lack of patience and reaction to the horse only elevates the fear, and the horse will pick up on that. I know when I talk about training animals and like training for halter breaking and just general training sessions, research has shown that you have their attention for about 15 minutes. So original training should actually be very short periods of time. You shouldn't spend an hour or 2 hours trying to get your horse to load. Basically, you've got their attention and their focus for about 15 minutes. It's similar when you're trying to teach like your 5-year-old to do something. You've only got a short period of time that they're actually with you and engaged before you start to lose them. So keep that in mind. Longer isn't always better with that. So little short sessions will probably do you more good than one long drawn out battle with them. Do not think they have to load on the first training session. So it might take you, and it very well will, I think, more likely to take you a couple attempts, and that is just fine. So you got to be in that mindset that training animals and training them to load, you're not just going to go and they're not going to, unless they're just this really cool horse, just going to load automatically and do it on the first time. And I love this little statement here: do not make it a competition between you and the horse. Getting the horse to load is not about you winning the battle. Okay. Getting the horse to load is about the horse overcoming a fear and a horse getting comfortable with it. So this isn't a battle between you and them, which I know it can feel like at times, but that's not what it is. So during the training, load and unload the horse numerous times before locking them in the trailer. So once you get them to load, so don't make that first time, yay, they're in there, now let's close them all in and lock them up, especially in a smaller trailer. Locking them up immediately will enforce the fear that they're unable to escape from a confined space. The animal must be allowed to take the situation, adjust their eyes to the relative darkness inside the trailer. So depending on what your trailer is and what the lighting is there. So when animals transition from a well-lit area into a darker area, their eyes actually take longer to transition than we do. Once they transition, they see better in the dark than we do. But if you do have an abrupt change, the animal's eyes actually take a bit longer to adjust than yours do. Starting a horse loading as a young foal with its mother will break down the fear of the trailer before you begin to train them to actually load. So hopefully their mom's a good loader and they can load with their mom, and it's something that can make them feel a little safer about the situation. So this is something I've done in the past. Parking a trailer in the field and feeding the horse inside the trailer can help them acclimate to that dark hole and get comfortable before training begins. And they don't associate going into that trailer with a bad experience or you trying to make them do it. So I've done this, like I said, with horse. I had a horse that was really, really scared of the trailer, and we did that for about a week. We fed him every night and we moved the bucket further and further in until they actually went all the way in. And then we started working on loading. If you have a horse that is trained to load already, put them in the trailer first, as the horse in training may be more apt to load with a companion already there. And always unload the new or nervous traveler first, because the stress of being a load and seeing the other horse leave can cause the animal to panic. So this is a very, very accurate statement. You leave them in there all by themselves, that nervous traveler, and they're not going to like it at all. And it makes it more scary, because for prey animals, isolation is a very, very strong stressor of theirs. So, when you're loading, make sure there's secure footing on the ramps inside the trailer and the immediate loading area. If your horse begins to slip or feels slipping at all, it makes them more nervous to load. They're not going to settle. They're not necessarily going to walk. You want to make sure the ramp is set flush to the ground and level. The ramp should not be too steep for the horse either. So, as a handler, you're going to have to do all you can to ensure the loading experience is safe and low stress for both you and the horse, which this situation in this picture is not. So when you're going to load, make sure you allow plenty of time for loading. So if you need to leave at 3 o'clock, start loading at 2 o'clock or whatever. So if you know you have nervous travelers, or you know you might have some problems, allow plenty of time for loading. But like I said, even with horses that are trained to load, when you get in a hurry, they can pick that up and you might run into some issues with that. So make sure you have plenty of time to get everybody loaded and settled. The horse should have a halter on that's easy to tie up and can break away in case of an accident. So you want to make sure that they can get undone also in an accident. If you're hauling one horse, the horse should ride on the left side of a 2-horse or the front stall in a slant trailer. And the heaviest animal should be loaded on the left side. So they're on the inside of the road, not on the ditch side of it. Okay. sure. Kendra, are my slides advancing on you guys? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, okay, there.
That's weird. It just froze up on me. So head posture is really, really important on the health of animals during transport. A horse has to have head movement in order to clear their airway. Okay, so it's really important they have that. Research has shown that cross-tying a horse was the poorest choice for the horse, and allowing a horse to travel untied was the best for their respiratory health. It also helps them balance. If they're not, I see horses tied up really tight. I see horses that can't move their head at all. They need their head for movement, for balance, but also they need to be able to clear their airway. That is really important. So if you can haul your horse untied, it's actually better for the horse. With that being said, there are some horses you can't. I had a horse for a while I was working with that I could not be. He had to be tied in because as soon as he would hear that door open on the back of the trailer, he went into full speed reverse coming out of that trailer. So he had to be tied in. But if you can haul your horses untied, they actually do better. So horses are often tied within the trailer during transport with their head and neck positioned above their withers. The restricted movement for long intervals may precipitate the accumulation of microorganisms deep into the respiratory tract, and you get a version of shipping fever from that. Okay, if you do tie your horse up, they should not have their head too high. No, nor should it be tied so short they have restricted movement of their head and neck. They should also not be tied so long that they can become entangled in the rope, because if they can, they will. So, and you need to give the horse room to move around. This helps him balance without undue effort. So the horses need to have the ability to move in order to balance properly. So it's easier on them, but depending on how they're sitting in the trailer also, this is why I like angle haul. When you look at an angle haul, they're hauling like this. So they're like this, and the vehicle's going like this. So they're like trying to balance that way versus forward. So, but you need to make sure you have enough room. And that's what causes the marks up on the front, is when horses put their feet out to balance or move forward, and you'll see scuff marks on a lot of the trailers right up front. And that's what it's for. It's for them trying to brace while they are balancing in the trailers. So environmental management within your trailer, managing the environment of the trailer is vital to the health of the horse. This includes air quality, temperature, humidity levels. So the most important thing you need to remember is horses and humans have two different comfort zones. So just because you're cold does not mean your horse is cold, okay? So they can acclimate to a variety of climate conditions. They live outside. And they do this without putting on or taking off clothes. So their bodies are also equipped to help heat and cool themselves. They thermal regulate very differently than we do. So you just really need to keep this in mind, that their thermal comfort level is not the same as yours. So when we talk about ventilation, ventilation is both the intake of air and the exhaust of air. So when you have poor ventilation, you have poor air quality, you have like dust buildup and ammonia, and you have overheating. So the animals warm up. Fresh air is required to circulate out mold spores, urine, manure, fumes, and dust. But your ventilation on your trailer should be designed that it prevents the exhaust fumes from the towing vehicle from entering the trailer. And as the number of horses in the trailer increases, the ventilation decreases. Okay, so the more horses you have in there, the more ventilation you need. The faster they will warm up the trailer. And humidity builds in there. So there's a lot of things that come into play there. So make sure that they have plenty of ventilation. We had an incident several years ago in Alberta that it was a cold winter day and they locked the trailer up. They had like 3 horses in their trailer and they sealed it up absolutely as tight as can be. And all 3 horses were dead when they got to their destination because there was basically no ventilation in a trailer with 3 horses in it. And it was like a 3-horse trailer. It was 3 or 4, and they overheated it, and the lack of ventilation. So ventilation, even in the cold, you got to have some ventilation. So inside the trailer, so for air quality, a horse will breathe in dust from hay, from bedding, from vehicle exhaust, road dirt, for those of you like me who live on a dirt road, fumes from their own urine and feces. Ammonia is a noxious gas from waste, and gases from the fumes of the tow vehicle can also insult the respiratory system. So the ventilation must also allow for the exhaustive air. So you want air to move out, fresh air to come in, and the bad stuff to leave the trailer so it does not build up in there. So with your ventilation, it should not allow rain into the vehicle. So you don't want rain in the trailer. It should be located in an area where the vehicle exhaust will not directly enter the trailer. Ventilation is worse when the trailer is stationary. So you actually can get more air movement with airflow, and it depends on how vents are set up on your trailer. And it doesn't like blow straight in, depending on the design of the trailer openness, but air will actually go over the top of the trailer and come into the back and go straight forward. Is how the air moves through trailers. And even it's why it blows everything to the front. So if there's an opening or in your trailer last time, everything will blow to the front, or the straw blows to the front. And that's how the air moves through the trailer. The big commercial trailers are the same way. It comes over the top, in the back, and then it pulls it forward. 2-way vents are the best when you want air to flow in, such as during hot water. The vent directs air in through the opening from the front. Air can also be released to allow for circulation through the vents. There hasn't been any research on exactly how much required airflow is ideal for horses. So as a guide, stop after half an hour and see if your horse is sweating. So you shouldn't have sweating horses coming out of trailers. That's a sign that you have a trailer that's too warm. Now, heat or cold stress can affect the welfare of horses. Optimal temperature range for horses is actually between -10 to +24 in the trailer in still air. So within this temperature range, the horse basically maintains their normal body temperature. As the air temperature falls below -10, the horse must divert food energy basically to heat themselves. So they have to turn their little furnace on and use energy to heat themselves. But heat stress is the bigger stress threat to horses, and it's actually all animals are more susceptible to heat stress. So when the air temperature is approximately 24 to 32 degrees, it becomes more difficult for the horse to release heat. So they begin to experience heat stress. Oh, okay, so here's the picture I said where I was going to talk about even when you're parked. If your trailer has screens on the window, you can open the windows for the horses. If you only have bars, so this is when you're parked too. This isn't just driving down the road. If you only have bars on your window, make sure your horse has a fly mask or something to protect their eyes. There's a lot flying in, guys. So there's a lot coming in at their face. If your trailer does not have bars or screens, do not open the window during transport, as you don't want the horse to be able to stick their head out the window. If you only open the window partially, ensure your horse cannot get the window open the rest of the way. And my emergency response course I have a couple incidents where the horses, they actually don't realize they can't fit through those windows, and they tried. And for those of you familiar with Alderside, there used to be the old Husky gas station back in the day before they divided the highway. And Okotoks Fire Department responded to a horse trailer that had been heading down the highway, and the horse jumped partway out the window. And they pulled into the old gas station there at Alderside with their horse halfway in the window and halfway out the window. Google it. You will see horses that have gone through these trailers, through the windows. The other thing, I was in Bragg Creek one day at the little shopping area, and there's some people in the bar or restaurant, and they left their horses out in the trailer with their heads sticking out the window, and there were kids feeding the horses cotton candy. So you got to be really, really careful and just aware of this, and if they spook and what they'll do, and that if you're not there with your horses and supervising what people will do. So, oh, there it is. I did have a picture. That's what they do right there. So, and halfway in, halfway out. So they don't realize where they can and cannot fit. Okay, so I'm now going to wrap up with a section just on good driving practices. So you got to remember you got horses in that trailer behind you. So the driver is responsible for continued care and welfare of horses during transport. Okay, that is yours. You've got to monitor at all times, even when you're driving, and be very aware of your driving habits and how you drive. So I know I was with a farrier once, and I was at a big stables, and some lady comes whipping in, to the parking lot to have her horse done, and the farrier unloads the horses from the trailer, and he goes and ties them up, and then he tells her to get back in the trailer, go climb in the trailer, and she's like, "What?" And he says, "No, just go climb in the trailer." He says, "I'm just gonna give you a little lesson here." And then he went and he actually drove her around and came back and around the corner like she had with her in the trailer. Yeah. And he's like, "See, that's how your horses feel when you drive that way." So key things: avoid sudden acceleration and braking, take off slowly and allow plenty of braking time. This is the big one, is the braking time. So the animals cannot see that there's a stoplight coming up. So they don't know you're going to stop. They have no idea what's going on in there. They are having to continually react to what you're doing as a driver. Allow plenty of room between you and the vehicle ahead of you. Now, next point is the biggest frustration to me. Remember that the general public has no idea what is required in safely transporting a horse. They may cut you off and assume you can stop on a dime. Oh, I hate it. You'll be slowing down and you're doing the right thing, pulling up to a stoplight, and somebody whips in front of you and you've got to step on the brakes. So very, very frustrating when they do this, but try to give yourself as much room as possible, and always be aware of the drivers around you because of this. Jamming on the brakes of the tow vehicle when the trailer has no brakes can cause the trailer to jackknife. Don't drive trailers without brakes. So a horse cannot anticipate corners or stop signs. Rough roads, winding roads, and poor driving will require continuous adjustments by the horse in order to maintain his balance. So just keep this in mind: washboard gravels, snaking roads, and just your driving. When approaching a corner, slow down 10, 15 kilometers slower than the posted speed. When cornering, slowly start to accelerate to this posted speed again. So thinking about towing a trailer as throwing a pebble into a pond and the ripples go out and back. As with a bump in the road, it's felt at the truck, then the hitch, then the trailer, then the hitch again, rebounding through the unit. So there's that constant movement. And it is one of the stressors of the horses, is that the constant vibration and the bumps. Stay to the right, except to pass. Don't tie up traffic. If cars are starting to line up behind you, pull over and let them pass as soon as you can. So be courteous. Be very careful when passing. Give yourself lots of room. Make sure you have plenty of room for the trailer before moving in front of the vehicle you just passed. Your mirrors are important. Should be able to see the entire length of the trailer on both sides. You may need to install extensions on your mirrors, and use your mirrors. We have those handy dandy now. I made a comment to one of my kids the other day. They were watching the camera when I was backing up, and they're like, "Stop, you're going to hit something." I said, "No, I can see." "Well, it looks close." And I said, "Yeah, I'm backing up the old fashioned way. I'm using my mirrors, not the backup camera." So use your mirrors. Your mirrors are, and with your backup camera with the trailer hooked up anyway, you really can't see. So make wide turns to allow for the trailer to make the turn with you. So always make sure the trailer you have a wide enough to make that turn without clipping a curb or something, or even the edge or the gravel along the side. When people corner too tight, the trailer needs a little extra room there. Avoid turning a gooseneck so sharply that the wheels quit moving and are dragged sideways. So I'm sure somebody's other than me has managed that one before. Okay. Backing up. Practice backing up at home. Okay. Backing up is, I know it can be intimidating, but everybody needs to learn to back up a trailer. and practice at home. You can set even cones up or straw bales to teach yourself to back. It's way easier to learn to back up when nobody's watching you than when everybody's watching you and judging. But learn to back your trailer up. Okay, this is critical. Remember, the shorter the trailer, the quicker it responds. The longer the trailer, the slower it responds. I can back up our 32-foot fifth wheel, no problem at all. I can maneuver that thing anywhere. Watch me try to back up my little garden wagon on the back of my riding lawnmower. I just get up and pick it and move it. The shorter the trailers, though, the harder they are to back up. The bigger the trailers, the easier they are to back up. So if your vehicle's starting to overheat, pull over as soon as you can. Don't take off the radiator cap. If your vehicle has been maintained, it should cool down. If you're driving a diesel, let the engine idle to cool it down. And always know the height of your trailer. And this is not for your horse, but this is to make sure you know where you're going and that you will clear whatever you are going under. So with that, I ended right on time. I wanted to allow a little time for Q&A. This was a 30,000 foot view, guys. Like I said, my training is normally a full day. So I tried to pick the highlights out just for tonight, just to give you some food for thought and considerations. But condition of trailer and style of trailer, loading, and driver skills are truly the three biggest issues I see when it comes to horse transport and animal welfare.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So much information there. I know I had a lot of questions in that. I think Haley and Karina, you guys have been looking after the chat, monitoring it. So Haley, did you want to start with the first question? Or Karina?
Yeah. Hi, Jennifer. I'm Karina. Thank you so much for, being here with us. It was an awesome presentation. I think everybody learned tons of things. The first question we had was from Denise. She asked if you also cross the chains on a gooseneck. When you were talking about...
When you're hooking up the chains?
Yeah.
I do. Okay. For me. I've always crossed mine. So, and it depends on how long the chains are, but it's a habit for me.
Okay.
But it depends on your hitch too, and if they'll reach and stuff. So.
Perfect. And what is your opinion about shipping bandages, and how often should you stop for breaks when traveling long distance?
Okay. So the first one was about shipping bandages.
Yes.
Okay. I deleted that. Okay. That's part of that was so hard because that was something that when I got down to 90 slides and I'm like, okay, I got to keep going. It was just so hard. And that's one of them I took out was shipping like leg wraps, head, tail wraps and everything. Honestly, the more naked your horse can travel, the better off it is. It really is. Not the head cap as much as the leg and the tail wraps. People have a habit of putting them on too tight. You can have circulation issues. Just like when you fly on air, I fly all the time. I'm on airplanes constantly and I swell up constantly. But a lot of people actually cause injury and problems to their animals by bubble wrapping them for transport. Because there's a lot of things you have to keep into consideration with that and make sure you do it right. It can also come off. It can get hooked up. So naked is actually better.
I totally agree with you on that. Melanie asks, what is the reason for the inside of the road? I don't really remember. So why do you put the horse on the left? I think is what the question is.
Yes, there were a few of those.
Okay, so all roads, this is the rec side of me and understanding why we roll trailers like we do too. So our roads all have a slight arch to them for drainage. And you don't want your horse also on the soft side of the road, the most of your weight. So it's about putting the heavier horse on the inside versus on the outside because of the pull over. The heavier horse can actually carry you over versus keep you in the middle. Does that make sense how I'm saying that?
For sure.
It just has to do with how our roads are designed. And even for anybody who lives on a gravel road, especially during the spring, our shoulders are extremely soft. So you want more of your weight holding you over on the side of the road, in the middle of the road, than off to the side.
Perfect. Melissa asked if you could please talk more about the type of halters.
Okay. I'm all about breakaway halters. And I also know people, something I commonly see is people actually tie their horses to a piece of baling twine so it breaks away. You flip a trailer and your horse doesn't have a breakaway, you go to the right-hand side, your horse is tied to the ceiling. You go to the left-hand side, they're tied to the ground. They rear up and go over. And I've seen this with cattle, I've seen it with sheep, and I've seen it with horses. They can flip themselves and they can hang. That's why, I drill into slip knots is the other thing. And horse people are horrible about tying a slip knot and locking it. They'll tie a slip knot and then they take the tail and they drop it through. You no longer have a slip knot. You just locked and I've seen way too many animals get killed and hurt and people not be able to undo them. And I totally get horses, Houdinis, they learn how to untie themselves very quickly. So I know they can do that. But that is why breakaway or tying them. I'll even see people have their horses just pieces of baling twine down the trailer and they have their horse tied to the baling twine. That's because the baling twine. That's how we did the pack string. I ran pack horses in the Grove Out Wilderness in Jackson, Wyoming. We did a lot of guiding. And we always tied up. And like if a bear was going to come get them, they needed to be able to get away. So we always made sure they had breakaways.
Perfect. Thank you. Brandy asked, you already answered this one. Do you have any tips on trailing in extreme temps, keeping horses cool in the summer months?
Okay, you kind of broke out there. What?
Tips on trailing in extreme temperatures and keeping horses cool in the summer months, if you have any tips on those.
Oh, on trailering in extreme temperatures?
Yes.
Extremely hot or cold. Yeah.
Don't. Unless you absolutely have to. And honestly, cold is not the issue. That heat is. So if you've got a really hot, and we do this with all livestock, you got a really hot day, transfer at night, early in the morning. Do not be transferring during the heat of the day. Make sure you've got good ventilation, have every vent open you can. Do not park and be stationary. Don't crowd horses in your trailer. Haul light. And just in our extreme, because we had some extreme temperatures this year, just crazy. And I know even at our plants, our slaughter plants, they shut down loads when it gets too hot, just because it's so hard on the animals. So
yeah. Joanne asked, what do you think of the use of bungees to tie in a trailer?
You know what? I've seen them used before. I don't have a lot of experience with them. Mine is more that they are able to break away and they're not able to hurt themselves. You are talking to somebody, though, that has been hurt too many times by the bungee cord myself. They can get you pretty good, and if they snap, they hurt. I have this fear of bungee cords just personally. So my thing is more make sure, that it doesn't give the animal too much room, that it's not going to come unhooked, and that it's not too short, and that they are able to have a breakaway.
Perfect. In your opinion, should you use shavings as flooring? Because she's saying that rubber mats are still very slippery.
Yes, all about it. I think the one picture I had showed shavings down on it. And I talked about how you can get manure and urine on them and it's no longer no slip. I'm all for shavings. I like, shavings. It helps absorb the urine and stuff and the manure. It does help with footing in there. And I'm almost positive by law now, under our new regulations, you have to have bedding in the trailer to absorb urine and for footing. I believe it's a legal requirement now in the New Health of Animals Act, Part 12.
Very interesting.
That they can't be standing in pooled urine. But make sure it doesn't have like dark walnut or any poison in it. So know what your shavings are and clean them out. Putting your shavings in once a year and leaving them for the entire year does not fly. So you need to make sure you clean them out also as needed.
Karina, let's do one more question because we're at 8 o'clock. So
sure. Tips for long distance hauling, 8 hours or more.
Okay, so long distance hauling, your horse has to be healthy and sound. Start preparing for the trip ahead of time, like even a couple weeks in advance. Make sure they, like I said, are healthy, up to date on vaccinations. That makes a big difference. A healthy horse is less likely to get sick. Make sure they're conditioned to trailer. Do not take a new horse on an 8-hour trailer ride. Make sure when you go on a long haul like that, I highly recommend you bring some of your own water with you. Have plenty of water, have hay that they're used to. So when you're stopped, you will not all animals like to drink somebody else's water. So they have plenty of water and plenty of hay. And the other thing I didn't talk about that I do want to throw out there, Kenda, really, really quick, that just drives me absolutely bonkers, right up there with the window thing that I'm sure you have picked up on, I get really kind of crazy about, is when I see horses with a bag of hay right in front of their face for a trailer ride. Would you want to spend your day with that? Do horses like hay? Yeah. Do they want it right here constantly? No. I've seen horses tangled up in hay nets also. You can get tangled, but understand, and if you do hang hay, for your animal does not have to eat 24 hours a day. They can go down the road for a little trip with no hay in front of them. If you are longer haul and you have hay in front of them, wet the hay down. You need to understand they just are continually breathing in and out all of those spores, all of that dust in the hay. But do not think your horse has to be fed constantly on the road. So
good. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody on this call or on this webinar has learned a lot. Thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for showing up and making this a huge success. That's it.
And I see there's a lot of questions. Email me, Kendall, like you say, if you have any. And I know it was kind of up here, but I hope I got everybody thinking.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, everybody.